Well, hello and welcome back to the Earle Wellbeing YouTube channel with me, Earle. Well, today is the start of a bit of a series here for us on YouTube and at Earle Wellbeing, in fact, in general. As part of this year's menopause month, throughout the whole of October, we are going to be shining the spotlight on what I guess you could say is maybe one of the final taboos of menopause. Maybe perimenopause too, and postmenopause. Yeah, we're going to be diving into how menopause can impact our sex life and our relationships. It's going to be such a good one and so useful to share with girlfriends too. We really do need to get so much information, especially the good stuff out there. So do make sure that you're subscribed to and following this channel. Do follow us on social media as well to keep yourselves up to date. Well, to kick things off, I thought I would get a little bit personal and share how my menopause journey actually impacted me and the relationships of those around me. So, this is my story. So, my own menopause journey, I have to say, was a little bit blurred, to be honest, because when I look back, I was perimenopausal before I even realised it. So it's easy, isn't it, to see these things with the clarity of hindsight. But, back in my mid-40s, nobody had ever said the word perimenopause to me. I'd been writing about health and well-being for quite a long time, but it was just not a word that was even on my radar. And even menopause just seemed so far away from where I was and, not really part of what I was going through. So looking back, when I think about the headaches I used to have, the stress, the anxiety, the lack of sleep, the achy joints. I used to get tinnitus. Nobody ever told me that, I had estrogen receptors in my ears and that could be a symptom, maybe because I never had a hot flush. I just wish that somebody had mentioned it to me back then. And of course, I think in terms of, sex and relationships, my journey was also blurred because I had an unexpected late baby in my late 40s. I remember doctors saying to me, you don't need to worry about contraception or anything like that because, your hormones are declining. So, it's highly unlikely to happen. And of course, it did. So he was a wonderful, unexpected blessing. Definitely wouldn't send him back. But that means that for me, I don't actually really remember going through a definite kind of cut-off date when my period stopped and I went into, menopause. Because menopause technically is a full 12 months since the date of your last period. But, I had a baby at 47, I was nearly 48. And then I was breastfeeding for a while. So, by the time I was kind of 48, heading to 49, everything was kind of all over the place anyway. So I never really went back to having, proper periods after that time. So for me, it wasn't really until I guess I was maybe sort of 50 and I was thinking, hold on a minute, this doesn't feel quite right. I'm getting heart palpitations. I'm not sleeping well. And, I like to be very busy. I like to multitask, do lots of things. But, if I can't sleep, that's really when the wheels fall off the wagon. So that's when I went to the doctor and that's when I was diagnosed as being perimenopausal, menopausal and started taking HRT. And it was around that time actually that I was writing my book, The Good Menopause Guide. So everything began to slot into place and I'd made contact with Dr. Louise Newson, who I think is absolutely phenomenal. I know many of you will follow her and many of you have the Balance Menopause app. It's a free app. You can download it wherever you are in the world. And it has a lot about sex and relationships and navigating all of that as well, because we have to remember that we have estrogen receptors in our brains. And that's very important for our mood and our anxiety levels and our emotions. And of course, who gets it in the neck if we're feeling anxious or we're feeling really grumpy or out of sorts? It's the people who we love most, who are nearest to us. And it's such a tragedy that so many relationships break down in midlife, I think so often triggered by losing our hormones. And it's a sad fact that many midlife women and beyond experience divorce. Hands up, been there, done it. Not an easy time. Really not an easy time to navigate. So if that's you at the moment, you absolutely have my sympathy and support, and know that there is a lot of help out there. And at least understanding how our body is physiologically going through this process of a change in hormones, I think can help. It can really help frame a perspective of what's happening. And hopefully we've got loving and supportive partners who we can bring alongside to understand. And that may not be your situation. That may not be where you are, in which case you need a lot of self-love and a lot of support from the menopause community around you, and hopefully some really good medical advice and medical support as well. I know for me, when I started replacing my estrogen, I had my first good night's sleep in about 3 years, and it was instant. I started using estrogel, rubbed a bit on, had a great night's sleep. And then everything else kind of followed suit from that, using estrogen and progesterone. I now use testosterone as well. And that tends to be the third piece of the jigsaw, which often follows after you sorted out the estrogen and the progesterone. You only need progesterone, by the way, if you still have a womb, if you still have your uterus. Those who've had a hysterectomy don't need progesterone because it's there to protect the lining of the uterus. That's literally its purpose. So for me, I have Utrogest and progesterone, which is the micronized body identical, and estrogel. And actually, before I jump off that topic of gel, just to say there have been so many reports that the new shaped pump produced by Bessins, who make estrogel, is not delivering the same quantity of estrogel. So stay tuned on my Instagram. I'm going to be covering this because it's a really important issue. So if your symptoms have returned since using the new shape of the pump, it may be that you are receiving less of the estrogen gel, in which case your symptoms may not be covered. And it's really shocking, actually, that Bessins seem to be ignoring all the complaints on this. If you have a look at a lot of the social media chat, there's a lot of chat going on about this at the moment. We've had issues with Bessins before. They produced Estradiol, which was a parallel import product, which was found to be not as effective by hundreds, if not thousands of women. Again, denied by Bessins. But anyway, watch this space. That's another topic. But to return to the subject of relationships, I just think it's a really important topic, and one that isn't really discussed enough, because we do often talk about symptoms of the menopause. We do talk about hot flashes, obviously, or hot flushes, headaches, dry skin, achy joints, vertigo, tinnitus, even, all those, pelvic floor infections, UTIs, all of that. So I think it's another area, the whole kind of psychological impact. And of course, practically, if we're talking about sex and relationships, lack of estrogen causes vaginal dryness. It can lead to vaginal atrophy. So making sex physically not only uncomfortable, but incredibly painful for a lot of women. And this is so easily fixed. Replacing our estrogen just replaces estrogen in our receptors all over our bodies, and that includes in the vagina and around the bladder and the urethra, which is why things like urinary incontinence and UTIs are helped so radically and safely. And even those who may not want to or can't have HRT, maybe because of cancer treatment, breast cancer particularly, the localized vaginal estrogen has been found to be so safe and so effective. It's even given during cancer treatment, and that's because it stays within the wall of the vagina. It doesn't migrate. It's not systemic like other forms of HRT. And it can make an immediate difference. You can have vaginal pessaries, there's a ring that you can insert, there's a cream. These are all super, super helpful things. So there's a little thing called Vagifem, which is a little pessary that many women who are already using other forms of HRT can safely use in addition. There's also a step up from that. There's a pessary called Intra Rosa, and this actually is made with a natural vegetable compound. It's encased in, I think it's coconut oil actually, and it just dissolves and melts within the vaginal wall, and that contains DHEA, which is the precursor to the hormones estrogen and testosterone, and that can really help with libido, and it can also help obviously with vaginal dryness and atrophy and UTIs. It's really an amazing product. It's safe to use every single day. So these are all things to check out. Go and have a look. Again, download the free Balance app if you'd like to. There's lots of resources. Newson Health is also another great resource from Menopause Doctor. You'll find lots on Earle Wellbeing as well. And of course, testosterone. You know, testosterone is actually licensed for women in the UK for lack of libido. Yeah, we can't have it for our brain health. No, but the patriarchy says we can have it if we don't feel like having sex. So yeah, that's something to talk about with your doctor. If you do suffer from lack of libido, lack of sex drive, if you'd like to try testosterone, then again, perhaps once you've sorted out your estrogen and your progesterone, testosterone could be something that you can safely add into the mix. It's not available in every area of the UK. Again, it's a postcode lottery. But check out your local formulary, talk to your local GP, and if that's something that you need, hopefully it can be made available for you. So as I move forward now through midlife and beyond, prioritising healthy, strong relationships really is on the agenda. And I'll be sharing a little bit more about this in the weeks to come, but we really do want to hear from you. How are you coping with menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause? Have you noticed it's impacting your relationships? We're going to be doing a big Q&A towards the end of the month right here on YouTube. So do let us know your questions, let us know what you'd like to be answering. You can just pop it in the comments below, especially when it comes to navigating the world of sex and relationships through this time of menopause and, of course, far beyond. So don't forget to like this video, click subscribe to ensure that you never miss another episode, and we'll speak very soon. But until the next time we chat, go well. Bye-bye.